Connecticut casinos could soon face some serious and seriously close competition. Tuesday, the U.S. government granted federal recognition to the Shinnecock tribe of New York, which many say clears a major hurdle to opening a casino there. Current business reporter Eric Gershon covers Connecticut's 2 casinos, and we're happy to have him here today to talk about it. Thanks, Eric, for being here.
My pleasure.
To start off with, let's talk about what federal recognition is and how difficult it is to attain it.
Well, federal recognition is a long and arduous process. The Shinnecocks have been trying to get something like it for something like 30 years.
Wow.
Believe it or not, more than 500 tribes in the United States have federal recognition. A lot of those were granted en masse a long time ago. It takes decades typically now. And it's a detailed, involved process, usually involves anthropologists, involves historians, requires a whole lot of documentation to prove that a tribe has been in continuous existence for centuries.
And now that's the prize ticket to hold, right? Because then that means you might be able to open a casino.
There are a number of reasons why you want recognition. Indian tribes in America have been impoverished by and large for a long time, and this opens up federal aid for housing and other things.
Right,
but let's face it, the big prize here is the potential to open a casino, something like Foxwoods or Mohegan Sun, which we have here in Connecticut.
Right. And so how big of a threat is this now that this Long Island tribe has it for Connecticut's casinos?
Well, it's going to be a little while, I think, Lori. The Shinnecocks probably don't want to open their casino on their reservation in Southampton, which is eastern Long Island, the Hamptons, because there are probably a lot of neighbors that don't want it there, and it's going to be a real trouble to get through all the traffic out there.
Right.
So we're talking time. We don't know exactly how long it's going to take. It may take an act of Congress. It almost certainly will take an act of Congress in order for the Shinnecocks to open a casino elsewhere in New York State that is not on their property.
They're allowed to do that, or that's what you're saying is going to take an act of Congress?
Yes.
Okay.
But I mean, that is something that has happened before, rarely, but it has happened. The Shinnecocks would also have to negotiate with New York State, which, like Connecticut, will want a piece of the action.
That doesn't seem, I don't know. I mean, I guess I don't follow the industry as closely to you, but that doesn't, on its face value, seem fair that they would be allowed to open it on a non-reservation site. But
well, that's for the government to decide, I guess.
Right. Okay, and so, but if they do open it, the threat or the risk for Connecticut casinos would be that they would draw the New York gamblers
Exactly.
there.
And both Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun draw a significant portion of their guests, their patrons, their gamblers from New York State. Not as many as from Massachusetts, which is a whole other story that perhaps we'll talk about, but enough to be worried about.
And but there's Atlantic City. I mean, so doesn't that draw gamblers as well?
It does. I think that the Atlantic City market competes a little bit more with Pennsylvania, perhaps.
Okay. So how is the casino industry doing anyway? I mean, in general.
Well, in America?
Yeah, in America.
It has not been good for the casino industry during the recession, as for a lot of businesses. The Connecticut casinos had a little bit of good news for May when it turns out their slot machine revenue, which accounts for a huge portion of their total revenue, went up and, in fact, was their highest since, I think, last August for both Connecticut casinos. But neither, management at neither casino is saying that they've really turned the corner for good.
And that's based primarily because of the weak economy, or?
Yeah, gambling is a game of risk, of course, and it's usually most people are spending discretionary income, and many people have less discretionary income. In a time of high unemployment.
Okay, and you mentioned the Massachusetts competition that we have and how these casinos in Connecticut draw a lot of their patrons from Massachusetts, and there's competition in the Bay State?
Competition in the offing, yes. The Massachusetts legislature, the House of Representatives there, has authorized two resort-style casinos, something like Foxwoods or Mohegan Sun, probably on a smaller scale. The Senate has not yet acted in Massachusetts, but is expected to do so in the near future. Talking about 3 casinos, possibly 3 resort-style casinos, also slots. And again, slots are huge for the casinos, so even slots alone in Massachusetts would be a problem. And it's not just Massachusetts. Now, of course, Rhode Island is also talking about the same thing. There's talk of a referendum for the voters of Rhode Island to determine whether they also want to permit resort-style casinos. There are already slots at Twin Rivers and elsewhere.
So everybody's trying to get a piece of the pie, in other words.
You bet, yes.
And so what's going to be the game plan for Connecticut casinos to stay on top?
Well, I think their strategy appears to be unchanged. It's not as though this competition has just snuck up on them. They've seen this coming for some time. Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun view themselves as entertainment destinations, not simply as gambling parlors, large gambling parlors. And so they want to continue to attract, big rock acts and sports and comedians and so on. There's golfing, they've got fancy hotels. So they're going to really continue to develop themselves as all-purpose, multi-purpose entertainment venues.
Right, diversified offerings there for the entire family, if you will. And they're also, you were mentioning to me earlier, facing some internal business challenges, if you will. You talked about the continued unionization efforts there.
That's right. Foxwoods in particular. So far, only the card dealers are unionized at Foxwoods. That's something like 2,500 people. Of course, many businesses don't like unions because unions drive up labor costs. Now the bartenders and other drink servers, those sort of roaming drink servers on the floor and the bar backs, bartenders, helpers, are trying to unionize. They tried to do that under the tribe's own process for that, and actually it didn't, and voted it down. But now external unions are trying to organize them under the federal rules, under the National Labor Relations Board.
Interesting. So some challenging times perhaps for the casinos to come.
Yes.
Excellent. All right. Thanks, Eric Gershon, for joining us to explain what's going on with Connecticut's casinos.
My pleasure.
Thank you very much. Don't forget, if you missed something here on The Real Story, you can now watch it online by going to fox61.com. You can also catch us on YouTube. Thanks so much for watching this week's edition of The Real Story. We'll see you here again next week.